actually start question 3, I want you to just take a breath. Trust me, it doesn't take all this working out to do these questions. Like, you're going to get quick at them. So, I'm going to give myself headings as I go. Domain. This is where the denominator equals 0. So we've got x take 2 squared equals 0. So, sorry, we know that it can't equal 0. Which means, well, the only thing you're going to put in and get 0 here is if x equals 2. So x cannot equal 2. So that's the domain. Yeah, I'd like to add something to here, intercepts. Zeros is kind of what they mean by intercepts, but that's x-intercepts. I'd also like to add y-intercept. So x equals 0, y equals -1 on 0 take 2 squared. So y is -1 on 4. X-intercept is what they mean by zeros. So y equals 0. So here we're going to see if we actually have any. So we've got 0 outside of x take 2 squared equals -1. So 0 equals -1. Can't happen. No x-intercepts. Okay, sign. Okay, so we've got x and y. We always start off by putting in our asymptotes. This is a vertical asymptote. X equals 2. Because it couldn't happen, we have a horizontal asymptote. Y equals 0. So here our vertical asymptote was x equals 2. Y you can't do. I'm going to chuck in things on either side, 0 and like 4. So 0, when we had 0, we had y equals -1/4. 4, I'm going to have to actually figure that out. Y equals -1 on 4 take 2 squared. Comes out as -1/4. So we're negative to the left. We're negative to the right. Last step is to actually write our asymptotes. We've already found them, by the way. The vertical asymptote x equals 2. Horizontal asymptote y equals, usually it's 0 plus whatever happens after this one. So we'll get there when we have example questions that ask. But here it's just y equals 0 because we couldn't make it happen. And now we sketch. Again, we never do a good job of this. So our vertical asymptote was x equals 2. Our horizontal asymptote was y equals 0. We know it's negative to the left and it's negative to the right. And now we're just going to put in the intercept that we found. So this is the point 0, negative a quarter. Notice that I didn't bother drawing it very well. Never bother drawing it well. Fit in the points you have afterwards. And that's it sketched. Show any points where y equals -1. Did not read the question. So we've got -1 equals -1 on x take 2 squared, which means -1 outside of x take 2 squared equals -1. Divide both sides by -1, and I get x take 2 squared equals -1 divided by -1, +1, which means I've got x take 2 squared equals plus minus 1. Plus minus the square root of 1. So x take 2 equals plus minus 1. So x equals plus minus 1 plus 2. So x equals -1 plus 2 is 1. And +1 plus 2, 3. So I'm going to call them this point. So this is 1, -1. X is 1, y is -1. And this is x is 3, y is -1.